Right, thank you all for coming. I'm your brother Kwame from Ghana, but I live in the UK. And I'd like to welcome you all. There are about 21 of us in this meeting. So I'd like to welcome you one by one, Brother Coco, Leah Ganoshi, Akan, Set Shiweo, Sister Tapua, Brother Nkrumah, who is the PAC secretary, I believe, general secretary. We've got Christopher, Sister Portia, Sully, Timmy, to Kunbo, Sizwe, thank you, Adebayo, Maxine, Letitia, Enrico, Brother Sam, I believe is Samson SM, is that correct, Brother Sam? Brother Ifo, Brother Pigeon, and then myself. So as I said, I'm Brother Kwame. So let's proceed. Let's hear from the first speaker, who I believe is Brother Coco. Brother Coco, are you ready to start? If not, then
hey, Professor Kwame, I've been trying to get off of unmute and sending messages for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, if you do a geopolitical analysis for us, 5 minutes. Yeah. Because we have
I can bypass, given the day, how many people are going to want to talk. I just wanted for the record that I was unmuted and I was not able to be unmuted. That's the first time that's ever happened.
Right. Oh, okay. I'm very sorry about that. It shouldn't have happened. Okay. So let's
Brother Kwame,
yes.
I intentionally muted everybody else so that we could control due to the number that probably I'll request that if members will be interested to speak, probably they have their hands up, then we unmute them, because the number in might be very hard if all of them remain unmute.
Okay, that sounds like a very excellent idea. So, Brother Coco, are you?
I will bypass, but I will voice my concerns in the chat. We don't want to get in a situation where we start limiting what the essence of CSG was, which is that everyone can unmute or raise their virtual hands. I trust that that could be even with the numbers, but I will put that in the chat, and I will bypass my political analysis given the sensitivity of today. Okay. This is Portia. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your understanding, sister.
Brother Kwame?
Yes. So let's hear
for records, I'll even also mute video sharing first, because I know handling hacking is an issue for us in the past, and will not be interested to do that.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Let's hear from Brother Coco. Are you ready to start for us? If not, I can start for us. Brother Coco?
Please go ahead, brother. I had thought Brother Stephen Piri will have been here to start.
Okay. All right. So in that case, I'm going to start for us then. So mine is I hope you don't see it as a rant. So this is me. Is my screen clear, brother Pigeon?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay. So the title so I wrote a piece today, and I was asked to do a presentation on it. That was my intention, so I said I would. So South Africa and the betrayal of liberation, why Africa's real enemies remain in power. That's my short presentation. It should be more than 10 minutes. My summary is that unlike nations that endured costly liberation wars, South African leadership halted the armed struggle prematurely. Brother Nkrumah may disagree with me, that's fine. The betrayal I am arguing is that monopoly capital and entrenched white economic power were left intact, resulting in a systemic failure to achieve genuine economic liberation. What's the prognosis? Well, there was unresolved disenfranchisement, which has mutated into tragedy, directing misplaced grievance toward fellow Africans, while neocolonial leaders face a looming crisis of legitimacy. So historically, what I have found is that when Guinea refused independence on France's terms, with the support of Ghana giving Guinea 10 million in those days, other African countries did not follow. That is Francophone countries. And Togo, which was a French colony, sought financial independence. They wanted to be free from France. And Olympia was assassinated despite taking refuge in the American embassy. Other Francophone African countries did not follow. Even when Algeria went for civil war, to kick out the French, other Francophone African countries, sub-Saharan Africa mainly, they just did nothing. Now, when you come to the Anglophone countries, we had nations like Kenya, Zimbabwe, Angola, Mozambique, which is Portuguese, Guinea-Bissau, Portuguese. They chose a different route. What did they do? They engaged in prolonged, costly liberation struggles to force independence. So that is what they did. Now, this is a summary of the typology of African liberation. Many in South Africa, there was opposition to apartheid. But the nature of the struggle was that the ANC claimed to wage war, but failed to build a credible force or pursue the armed struggle to its conclusion. You remember people like Idi Amin were asking for armed invasion of South Africa. But you can't fight a war when other people are not ready to do the fighting in the way that you think it should be fought. In other words, ANC was interested in keeping monopoly capitalism intact. They didn't want to, if you like, fight the armed struggle to its logical conclusion. Whereas, as you can see, others did. Anyway, so it, in my view, led to an anomaly of the continent's most powerful settler colonial economy. So though South Africa was the most powerful settler colonial economy on the African continent, in sub-Saharan Africa, demanding a proportional revolutionary response. That is that, given the power of the South African minority government, we know later they had nuclear weapons, yeah? The response should have been commensurate. But despite significant funds and support provided by Nigeria and other African nations, Black South Africans and their leadership chose not to pursue the armed struggle to its full conclusion. So the ANC, therefore, in my view, failed to build a credible liberation force. It claimed to be waging war against apartheid, but did not lead a campaign to dismantle monopoly capitalism. Yeah. So in office, the ANC lost its revolutionary drive, and in my view, becoming one of the least effective governing parties on the African continent. This is what I'm saying. The core principle is this: if a movement avoids decisive action against the real sources of oppression, it can't expect others to achieve liberation on its behalf. So what happened? Monopoly capitalism was entrenched. And that's what this is saying. There was no mass movement directed against white economic power. We even hear that they're afraid of white people. I don't understand, or some of us don't understand. Maybe they'll explain to us why they are afraid. I don't know. Maybe they will explain to us. There was no concerted effort against Indian-owned businesses. At some point, we hear some Indians even captured the state, right? There were no demands to close foreign-owned businesses, as they are doing now to their fellow Africans. There was no systemic demand that minorities leave the land, because they are a minority, they are Europeans. Okay? So the true enemy, monopoly capital and entrenched white economic power, remained, it remained. And the statistics make the reality clear that the true enemy continues to occupy the land and control the enemy, control the economy. Now, I might be accused of not the way I'm talking, because according to the Constitution, South Africa belongs to all those who live in it, and the flag is a rainbow. So please forgive me if I'm sounding too unlike South African. Yeah. The structural misdirection of revolutionary frustration. That's what we are seeing. So decades of legitimate economic grievance, and South Africa have legitimate economic grievance, generates intense frustration. So there's frustration. So instead of it being directed at monopoly capital, as Malema has been calling, as we understand it, although some say that, some say this and that he's been threatened, etc., 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 etc. But anyway, the argument is that it halted struggle and ANC passivity to the extent that in the recent election, ANC even lost its majority. Now it has to form a government of, we understand, national unity. So what's happening? Frustration is directed inward. Anger is turned towards people who were prepared to stand with them. And all Africans were happy to stood by South Africa, especially Nigeria. And that's even what pains me the most. Of all the countries that give money, Nigeria gave the most. And that's the country they hate the most. That's what I don't understand. And that's resulted in a tragic expression of misplaced grievance of fellow Africans. And so I'm saying that when I went to South Africa, when I was there, after apartheid was dismantled, after political apartheid came down, after the vote, I went to South Africa. I visited Soweto. That's the first place I went, and the environment was very nice in terms of the South Africa. It was nice. You didn't feel threatened. You didn't feel unwanted. You didn't fear for your life, etc., etc. And you recall that all the children who rose up in the Soweto riots, that when they rose up, they rejected the Bantu education, which separated them into ethnic groups. They said no, so they went out as a unified force. Their parents had gone to work. When their parents arrived, Soweto was in flames. We have some pictures. But today, their grandchildren focus their anger on other Africans. Movements like Dudula, regret and target fellow Black people and African nationals, while the real enemy continues to occupy the land and control the economy undisturbed. So the ANC's failure to achieve genuine economic liberation is a profound disappointment, not only to South Africa, but to the entire continent. But across Africa, leaders like Uganda's Museveni have similarly failed to deliver meaningful change, been in office for 38 years and not much systemic change. So we have continental stagnation. Africa is not developing. Africa is not totally liberated. Africa is not unified. You see, and Africa as a whole has fallen critically short of the promises of independence strived by ineffective neocolonial leadership. So the inevitable decay. So I am suggesting we don't promote war. We don't, CSG, those who are organizing this meeting, we don't promote war. We don't promote violence. So what we are calling for is democratic corrections through elections, sustained grassroots civic pressure, and broader peaceful political realignment. The neocolonial legitimacy has to be cracked. So when a liberation movement fails to dismantle the entrenched economic power of its real enemies, it ensures that the burdens of oppression are merely inherited, misdirected, and violently passed down to the next generation. So what is the solution? Our topic for this week is defense, a unified defense for Africa. So we are arguing, or I'm arguing on behalf of CSG, that only a new African nation with a unified African government can provide the continental defense that Africa needs. Thank you. That's the end of my presentation. Thanks. Right. Brother Coco, are you ready? If not, we'll ask Brother is General here?
Was it not Brother Piri?
Sorry? I'm looking at the
name. Brother Piri who said he was going to present for us?
Piri said he can't make it.
Oh, okay.
But Brother Piri sent an audio. I don't know how it will be played.
He sent
but
an
I
audio.
don't think it will be played.
We'll play it if we need to.
Okay.
I wanted to give priority to those who are here.
Okay. So is Brother Anunnaki presenting as well?
He's not yet here, so feel free to
okay.
proceed.
But you have Brother Nkrumah in.
Brother who?
Samsung renamed themselves.
Okay. Yeah, Brother Nkrumah is here. Brother Coco.
Yes, brother.
Okay, just halt. Let Brother Nkrumah. Please unmute you. Pigeon, unmute Brother Nkrumah. Let him speak. Brother Nkrumah, feel free to disagree with me.
Greetings. Thanks. Thanks, Prof, for the presentation.
Just call me Brother Kwame. That's all.
Okay, Brother Kwame.
Yes.
Well, thanks for the presentation. And I think to a great extent it captures the crisis, the root cause of what we are seeing happening in occupied Tanzania. And I think maybe to add some of the key points is that we are living in a country where more than 72 to 84% of the land, it is still controlled and owned by the white minority and foreign capitalist countries or forces. We live in a country where those who own the mines, the mining industry, have these invested. As a result, the mining industry has shrunk considerably, forcing a large number of mine workers to lose employment. But when you look at the economic model of South Africa, the mining industry is the primary economic sector, where the manufacturing industry is secondary and is dependent on the mining industry. So when you close the mines, basically what is then happening is that your steel, ferrochrome, and so forth mines are also closing, which becomes the feeder to the manufacturing sector. So from 1994 up until now, both the mining industry, which was shrinking and impacting and influencing the manufacturing industry, and there has been a disinvestment in the manufacturing industry. Consequently, it was also, you had a large number of companies closing, and the manufacturing industry shrinking in terms of employment, more and more of African workers losing their employment, losing jobs. As a result, as we speak today, that unemployment in the country is standing at more than 40%. Now, what does that mean? As more and more people don't have employment opportunities, it means more and more African people, they don't have a source of income. When more and more of them, they don't have a source of income, then the vast majority are thrown into the state of poverty, hunger, and unemployment, then therefore social degradation. These economic factors combine, resulting also to what is referred to high cost of living. High cost of living. For people to buy bread, to buy milk, to feed their families, it becomes a luxury. Vast majority of people, I can tell you without doubt, that more than 10 million people in this country are considered as living in abject poverty. I can tell you without doubt that there are families, as we speak, that they're going to sleep without food on their table. So the situation in the country has becoming worse and worse. So in essence, is that the neo-colonial state, the South African neo-colonial state, what you call neo-colonial state, is facing a serious crisis where the cake is getting smaller and smaller. Why? Because of those who own the means of production have consciously and deliberately decided not to invest to create the wealth of the country, because of, by and large, those who own the means of production, they are settlers, they are white, they are capitalists, they are foreign capitalists. And the government does not have any authority and control nor power upon them. And as a result, the crisis of the country is getting deeper and deeper. Now, with that happening, you then experience a situation where there is institutional failure. Institutional failure or failures where various government departments are incapable and they are failing to fulfill their legislated mandate. And when they fail, then there is a third force involved in this particular process. That third force that has invested itself in how do they cause a distraction among the African people in occupied Azania. Hence, you have faceless individuals who take advantage of the crisis, the disparity and the frustration of the vast majority of the African people in occupied Azania. And they then invest and fund these formations that have mushroomed all over the country, taking advantage of the genuine demands of the people. When the people demand a better life, when the people demand food, when people demand employment, these forces cause a distraction by creating an impression that those who came into the country without proper documentation are the cause of the crisis in the country. And that has to be understood clearly, that this mushroom protest, the vast majority you find a middle class individual who is capable from nowhere to transport and direct people and with buses, with kumbis, to gather in Eastern Cape, in KZN and so forth. The question is that, how do they succeed to amass this amount of revenue for them to sustain a logistic and revenue demanding type of political campaign, right? Because we believe that this is not a coincidence, but it is a distraction intended to defocus the people on the crisis unfolding and experienced by the neo-colonial state that has continued to protect white monopoly capitalism at the expense of the African majority, where land and the means of production are controlled by the white minority, and capitalist and foreign capitalist. Now here we then have a situation where you have black people turned against black people. And of course, certain media institutions, by virtue that they have been controlled by white monopoly capitalism, they're owned by white monopoly capitalism, they drive that particular narrative. I mean, some of the simple questions is that companies that employ people without legal papers, according to the law of the country, it's illegal. But then the question that follows is that why we have not seen protests and marches that targets white-owned companies to make them and to hold them accountable as to why are they employing people without proper documentation, and they ignore and that they don't employ the locals. That has not happened purely because the funders of all these mushrooming Afrophobic, xenophobic formations, the funders' intention is to deepen the division among the African workers, among the black workers. Because of now what then arises as a consciousness based on experience of the African workers is that across Africa, the neocolonial states are not holding. They're experiencing a crisis as a result of the global economic capitalist system crisis, which cascades itself and manifests itself as a failing state across Africa, right? And these imperialist and capitalist white minority forces are facing a serious threat where the African workers across Africa can unite, but they undermine that unity of the African people by funding opportunistic and parasitic elements, characters, forces to scavenge and parasite over the vulnerability and the desperation of our people. Those are deeper systemic and institutional issues that we are confronted with. And I mean, here there are cases where we engage a number of activists and individuals who are involved in this campaign. Here's a simple example. If a house owner does not make sure that the doors and the windows are locked, who is to be blamed to find his or her property missing? Logic dictates that the house owner has been negligent and irresponsible. But that level of understanding amongst our people is being negated by the very fact that the narrative that the undocumented individuals are taking jobs. And that's a powerful and popular narrative that we are confronted with. And of course, our concerted efforts to become more united as Pan-Africanists and to wage. And also what we need to also understand as Pan-Africanists is that in this country, Pan-Africanism and socialism have become the most powerful and popular ideological and theoretical narratives among activists. They have then become a threat to the ruling class and also to the governing party. It is therefore not a coincidence to also, when you look at the social media spaces, that there are people who are waging a concerted effort of anti-Pan-Africanism, of anti-socialism, that those leaders who are vocal, propagating to defend the unity of the African people, to attack and expose the very fact that neocolonialism and the current state is in a crisis and it cannot deliver. It has failed to liberate the African people, that they're experiencing these forms of attacks. There are positives, of course, where there are various trade union federation leaders who are now standing out and coming out to condemn, to reject, to disassociate and expose these mushrooming activities as right-wing, opportunist, divisive, and distraction in regard to what is the root cause of the crisis that we face in occupied Azania and also across Africa, and the need for the African workers, the need for the African peasants, for the African people to reorganize themselves, to reconstitute themselves, to wage another revolution against the comrade bourgeoisies who are responsible for the crisis, for the hunger, for the unemployment, for the high cost of living, and so forth. Right? So we are entering that particular phase where there is realignment of forces. And of course, as we know, that man does not make history under the circumstances of their own liking, under the circumstances of their own choice. But it is the factors and the forces that are at play in the process of contradiction and realignment of forces that puts upon and imposes upon us to choose which path do we take. And yes, as I've said, this will demand a concerted effort so that we are able to overcome it. In conclusion, and also to give some of the practical examples, we have been told that undocumented individuals or Africans are taking over spaza shops. We have asked a question that when you look at the township economy, which is millions and billions of money, malls have been erected in townships. These malls are controlled and owned by white monopoly capitalism. These are the malls that have destroyed black-owned businesses. Why there's no focus and attention to white monopoly controlled malls in townships? The worst part of these malls, they take profit out of the townships and they don't invest back in the townships. The worst part of the brutal nature of white monopoly controlled township-based malls is that they also underpay local black workers. So they perpetuate exploitation and social degradation of black workers and subject them into precarious type and form of employment. Why are people not mobilized to say why monopoly control malls are also responsible and they must be targeted? Why should people chase lizards when crocodiles are busy chowing and consuming our people, right? And we are not getting answers. And these are the questions strategically as a form and tactical as a form of opening up the eyes of our people that we need to ask them. We need to make them to answer these questions. The townships, you find malls. Some of the malls in townships, they make billions and billions of money, more than the townships, more than the malls that are based in suburbs, in these opulent areas, right? So millions and billions are living townships, they are living villages. And these malls are controlled by some corporates, by white monopoly capitalism, by JSE listed, right? That our people must be focused. Don't claim township economy by targeting undocumented foreign owners, as they say, and so forth. Look at the bigger picture, right? But as a matter of principle, we also say in conclusion,
sorry, Brother Nkrumah, sorry to interrupt you. Can you conclude? So when we have the discussion and questions, others can then ask you, then you can give more information. Yeah.
Yes. I want to conclude.
Just spend about 1 minute to conclude.
Yeah.
Brother Coco, get ready to speak after. Sorry to derail your train of thought. Sister Portia, please check your WhatsApp. I've sent you a message. And Brother Coco, I hope you are getting ready to speak after Brother Nkrumah. Brother Nkrumah, please proceed and conclude in about a minute, please. Thank you.
Yes, but in essence, I mean, there's something I wanted to raise in conclusion about the complexity of the nature of the problem that we face. Or lastly, that we are saying that any individual who commits crime in the country must be treated as such as criminal. We don't have to attach criminal activity to ethnicity or to who originates where. Criminality must be treated as criminality, and those who are causing harm and damage to the locals must be reported and be held liable, and the law must take its own course. Pan-Africanism should not be used to hide criminality. We stand for Africa, for Africans, Africans for humanity, to uphold Ubuntu and act in the best interest of our humanity, and that's what we are. That's my conclusion.
Well, Nkrumah, thank you very much. Brother Coco, get ready to speak. That was an excellent presentation. So we are hearing from our brother from the ground, Secretary General, I believe, of a political party on the ground. So we are hearing from the horse's own mouth. That was amazing. We will hear more from Brother Nkrumah as we proceed. Now, Brother Coco is going to speak next, but I've been asked to explain this slide. So I'm going to spend just 1 minute to explain. Why am I saying that a new African nation with a unified African government is the only continental defense the Africa needs? Because it will mean that there is no South Africa, there is no Ghana, there is no Kenya, there is no this. That's the problem. We cannot be foreigners on our own land. Come on. How can we be foreigners on African soil? We are Africans. Right? We were Africans. You know, I'm from Ghana. I should be able to go to any part of Africa and feel at home. And the reason we have this you are a foreigner, is because we don't have a united continent. So that is my explanation. Thank you. Let's now, if Brother Coco is ready, hear from Brother Coco. Thank you. Brother Coco? Okay, if he's not ready. General.
He sort of exited and has just come back on, so maybe if you give him a minute.
Okay, well, once he's getting ready. General, are you able to say a few words? Then Brother Sechaba, are you going to speak today? Do let me know.
Yes, I will speak.
Okay, since you are, can you speak now? Because Coco
by the way, Coco said that they're muted. That's why they can't speak. They can't unmute.
Okay, Pigeon, you need to be unmute. Coco, please. Actually, I can also unmute, can't I? Let me see. Sorry about that, Coco.
Brother Kwame, all speakers are co-hosts. So Brother Coco was a co-host before he left. So that's why maybe he was not able to.
All right, yeah, he's not in the chat. Right, thank you. Brother Sechaba.
Do you want me to come in now?
Yes, please. Make Brother Sechaba a co-host so that he can also just speak. Yeah, proceed, brother. Thank you.
No, thanks. And appreciate the two presentations. And but raise one fundamental aspect from the readings that we will have been doing on Mondays and Tuesdays. Firstly, I think what becomes important for us to locate the challenge of South Africa is to appreciate the facts that have been placed here today, but then dig deep and say that what we will call is the party in administration, where it's its ideological orientation. And I think that will give us an answer to answer some of the fundamental questions that you are placing as facts as they are. Brother Kwame, in particular about the African National Congress, which I think its historical genesis must be brought to the fore in terms of what it stood for and its limitations at the same time. Because by its nature and character, with what is been presented here, there was no way that the ANC could bring a total liberation to the South Africans because of its nature and character. Now the question becomes, what will have been done beyond the ANC that will have at least taken the liberation forward of the African people within the context of what Kwame Nkrumah was talking about in terms of the social revolution that we're talking about. And I think that's where, for me, with what we have just spoken about, the unified defense of Africa, we come in and say this is the direction that we take. I will have commented deeper, in particular because of what Brother Nkrumah will have already spoken about in terms of the challenges. But I think one critical area that we must also flag that becomes important also is a limitation of the revolution of South Africa that came out of a negotiated settlement, not an open revolutionary takeover like it will have happened in some of African countries, that independence. That post 94, already South Africa was operating from that negotiated settlement, that the first 10 years will have been a government of national unity that ensured that the apartheid system reignite itself, and the challenges that South Africa is facing today are as a result of that. You even see that within the interrelations that are happening within the alliance that we will regard as the alliance that will be in charge of South Africa. There are serious fundamental contradictions that cannot be managed. And that also perpetuate some of the challenges that South Africa is facing here today. Now, the question that will come to the fore is there a party in South Africa today that at the end of the day is able to can take that revolution forward beyond what the ANC's limitations will have been? And I think this is a question that when we deal with the South African question, we have to locate the entirety of the problem there to say that, do we have a specific political party that can do that? Because that's the only solution that can bring anything for us. We always hear about other political parties that find expression in Africa because of their populistic outlook on the question of challenges that are facing national from other countries. I don't need to mention names of them, but when we historically look at them, their funders, where their propaganda is located from, you always find that they're not going to bring any solution for African problems except to enhance the same monopoly capital that at the end of the day South Africa is faced with currently. And I think this platform for me becomes most important because its genesis is located from an ideological perspective of key African leaders that came before us that have charted the way, and it's for us to take that debate forward. So I don't want to take much time because I think your presentation as well as the presentation of Brother Nkrumah will have captured where I will have started from and from there. So I think for me, it was just to say that as much as when we debate and engage, let us not forget that the ANC was not going to bring what we expected to bring. Thank you.
Thank you so much, my brother, for your eloquent presentation and addition. Brother Coco, are you ready now?
Hello.
Are you ready?
I can talk.
Yeah, proceed. Thank you.
Greetings, all of you, brothers and sisters on the call tonight.
Brother Coco, I love your white. Wow.
Thank you. I'm humbled to be with you tonight. And before I can start, I would like to apologize and say I am not an expert on these matters. I am just an African. And being an African, in this case, I'm talking about someone who was born and raised in Lesotho, which is an odd case, completely surrounded by South Africa, yet foreign to South Africa. So I am a foreigner in South Africa as we speak. So you know that I might not have all the full details of what's happening in South Africa. Yes, I need a passport to cross into South Africa. For those that don't know, I cannot work in South Africa. In short, my people cannot work in South Africa unless they have permits or lots and lots of things that they have to jump through. Funny enough, majority of the Basotho people, they live in South Africa than in Lesotho. So the border, as we speak right now, is an oppression to the Basotho nation. And when I mean the Basotho nation, I mean Botswana, Bapedi, and the Barotse, Balozi in Zambia. So that's a huge nation, but we are cut up across different territories, which were enforced or imposed by the foreigners in Berlin Conference of 1884, 85. But again, you could argue some of it. We asked for protection when we felt oppression from the enemy who came in the 17th century in the Cape. So what I'm going to talk about tonight will border more on history, so people can understand the historical perspective and also understand what is happening on the ground. So I am in a group, it's called Africa Unite, with Comrade Pigbin. And in that group, there are several South Africans. All they do every day, all day, is to post propaganda. And that propaganda is to find evidence to show that the foreigners in South Africa are doing what is illegal and must go. So we have tried to talk to some of these people, but it's becoming clear that they don't listen to anything that you say. It's what they want to hear that they only listen to. So let's first start by saying the Bantu people we're talking about 350 or more in Southern Africa, in Eastern Africa, West Africa, Central Africa. They are the same people. The differences will be in language here, language there, and now again, we are boxed into different Berlin Conference partitions. But at the end of the day, we are the same people. Bantu, for those that don't know, mean people. It's a Zulu word, a Xhosa word, or Nguni word that means people. And you go everywhere around Africa, there is a way that they call people, but there is a lot of similarity in how they call people. Bantu. Now, to use what Brother Khakudi said, Brother Khakudi alluded to Ubuntu. So Ubuntu comes from Abantu, if you understand what that means. It means there is that relation, interrelationships between us as Bantu. And the way we do things is we are very hospitable. We take care of our own. We respect our own. And the usual saying, I am because we are, moto ki moto kabatu. It means that I can only be a human being because of people around me. I am a reflection of the society I come from. That's what it means. You become whole because of the society in which you live in. But what xenophobia has done, it has shown that people can be dehumanized. So dehumanization doesn't start now. Let me make a small explanation on what I mean by dehumanization. My wife is from Sierra Leone. So if you understand, that means she's dark-skinned because she's an African from West. But one point, she came to, we went out together when we were in Lesotho, and then she came out to me saying, what is Lekwerekwe? What is Lekwerekwe? Some woman was saying something about Lekwerekwe to me. I don't understand what that means. And Lekwerekwe is the one word which every African who is undesirable in South Africa is called. And majority of us don't even know where that Lekwerekwe comes from. But let me just remind you, the Shona, amongst them, there is a clan called the Kore. They are the Shona. But that word has spread around to cover every African who they don't want in South Africa. They label them Le Kore. And the reason I quote this word Le is because language is not only a means of communication. It carries culture. It also carries historical narrative. If you talk about human beings in our languages, you will use mu, umuntu, mutu, as I said. But once you talk about non-human being, you'll use le or some other prefix, and le falls under there. Unfortunately, even the whites, we will call them the hoa, the nyeseman, is dehumanized because we don't see them as fully humans. So they take a word which was meant to describe the Shona, especially when they were many, they had their armies, they were like locusts. So they were called Makorekore. And that Makorekore then now has turned out to be for everyone who is not seen as belonging south of the Limpopo. So remember that is dehumanization. That comes from the word, the language. Once language, we forget who we are, that is a problem. So the Bantu people migrated from the north into Southern Africa. But again, there were another group of people who came into the Cape, as I said, in the 17th century. These were white people. And from 1779, when they clashed with the Xhosas, we have been in conflict with them up until today. And if we talk about with Fanon, there is internalized inferiority that comes from colonization. And that colonization creates hierarchies. And unfortunately, that hierarchy, you can see it in South Africa, where the locals, they think we are locals. Therefore, we are entitled to all the benefits that are here in our country before anyone else come in. In fact, now that apartheid has ended, we have been promoted. We are like the whites. We are like those guys who thought they were masters, and everyone else is beneath us. It's unfortunate, but it's a psychological after effects. It's still there. So I know my brothers who are here will forgive me, but I have to speak what I see, the way I see things. So this is Frantz Fanon, who did understand this from medical background. understanding how this works. So I said I'll talk a lot about history. Let's not forget, England, I don't know what century that was when they introduced the Enclosures Act. Under the Enclosures Act, they made sure that only those privileged could have access to land. And everyone else who didn't have land, what happened to them? They were impoverished. They were driven out of the countryside into the urban areas. And that's when capitalism, as we know it, started. So communalism ended from that time. These are the same people who came into South Africa, into the Cape, and then advertised that there was land. There was unfenced land here, unenclosed land here, which is freely available. And they came in, took majority of the land in the Cape. And let's not forget, they were not the first one to come. The Boers were the first ones. But when the British came, the British kicked the Boers out. It meant the Boers moved northwards, where they clashed with the Africans. And unfortunately, most of us will talk about Mfecane Wars. The Mfecane Wars, the great scattering. For those of you who are not from Southern Africa who don't know, the African people went through a lot of hardship under Mfecane Wars. I'm mentioning Mfecane Wars here because it reordered nations in Africa. So when the South African brothers say, go where you come from, they don't know who those people are, where they are coming from. So in my case, my people were dislodged in the north of South Africa by Mzilikazi's raids. So we had to find our way all the way in Lesotho under a benevolent king called Moshweshwe, who knew what Ubuntu was at that time. So this is the opposite of what was happening under Moshweshwe. Moshweshwe took all those people who were fleeing violence and everything and created a nation out of them. And it's not just the Basotho people or the Batswanas, speaking from my perspective, also those people who came from Natal. I had wanted to share a screen here and explain, but there were the Amahlubi. Amahlubi people were dislodged from KwaZulu-Natal during that time when the violence started. And they had a fight with the Amangwane people. Maybe some of you from South Africa here will know about this history. But the Amahlubi people, when Mbangesita, their founder, died, stayed with Moshweshwe. They became part of the Lesotho kingdom. Those people, you could call them the Zulus, you could call part of the Nguni people. They are in Lesotho as I speak. Are they foreigners in South Africa as well? The Mfecane War ended up with Soshangane, Zwangendaba. Zwangendaba and Soshangane were generals under Zwide, who was fighting Shaka at the time. When the war, when they were defeated by Shaka, Soshangane went to Mozambique, and Zwangendaba went to Zambia, and some of his people went all the way into Tanzania, the Ngoni people. And Mzilikazi, who came away from the Zulus as well, left with the Kumalo, about 100 people, and then captured lots of the Botswana people, and then in the end went into Mozambique. So they are the Ndebelers in Mozambique as we speak. They are from South. Are they foreigners in South Africa? Sibitwan, who then went and formed the Makololo, who became later the Balozi in Zambia, came from around Free State area in Lesotho. Are those people foreigners in South Africa too? So this is me going all the way back for you to understand how much interrelated we are as Africans, because the migration wasn't just southerly, it also was northerly and easterly. So it has happened a lot. And the Nama people in Namibia, they were the Griquas. They are part of the Griquas who under Hendrik Witbooi also left South Africa and moved all the way into Namibia. Are they foreigners in South Africa as well? That is a problem. We face a problem here as Africans because we don't know who we are. We have stopped asking all the right questions and understanding that we have all been dispossessed, and is a system, is the international system which we are up against. I agree that our brothers have been dispossessed, and unfortunately, they face about 3 issues here. They were the last bastion of capitalism or colonialism on the African continent, who we were expecting once the apartheid falls, the African continent can be united. So you can imagine the expectations both outside South Africa and inside South Africa. And the South Africans themselves expected that once apartheid ended, what they were dispossessed would be returned to them. It has never happened. It hasn't happened. Because of why? Settler colonization. Let's not forget here, there was colonization in other countries, but in Kenya, in Zimbabwe, and in South Africa, we had what is called settler colonization. That's important for you to understand the context. Under settler colonization, their loot, they protected it with laws and political instruments, which made it very difficult to reverse any of those things that they put in place. Hence, why we are where we are here today. But it's important for us to work together, not in isolation, as they are always saying. They say, go and fix your country. There's no such thing. That sounds to me like in Britain here, where they say, secure our borders. Or in America, where they say, build the wall. We'll build the wall. It's the same thing. It's the same mindset. But at the end of the day, who is being used here? The worker. The dispossessed. Everyone, as they are being used to protect the elites who are sitting pretty. Sitting pretty. I saw a video which was shared by a white man, which, again, the Africans are sharing it widely from TikTok, which is talking about the African or South African women as if they are loose or weak, or is disrespectful at West to say that the other Africans are just coming there for the South African women, and the South African women will do anything that they want. No, that's disrespectful to my sisters. I have cousins in South Africa.
Brother,
I have family in South Africa.
Brother presenter, you've got 5 minutes to round up. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a long time. So it's important to understand 4 different of our let's say ancestors who have seen this coming. Kwame Nkrumah, who coined neocolonialism and realized that it doesn't end with political independence. Political independence without economic independence is no start. We need to continue to work together. And that's why he advocated for unity now, because he realized that together is the only way that we can fight these ills of capitalism. And that's why he was also advocating for socialism, because socialism embraces what we used to have as Africans in Ubuntu, in communalism, in sharing everything and making sure that all the needs of the people are catered for. But the system we are using right now is not going to help. If we were to unite, if we unite under that system of capitalism, it's not going to work. The Africans are not going to get back their land. And that brings me to one of our ancestors. He's still alive. Ramusi Mohobe. He wrote Ubuntu, of philosophy according to Ubuntu. He said, the African was dispossessed of his land. That meant he was denied of subsistence. And at the same time, he was thrust into the wage economy, money economy. And when independence came, that subsistence, that sovereignty was never returned to him. So even if they're talking about human rights, there is nothing unless you return those back to the African. So another one, last one I want to mention is Walter Rodney. It's simple. The elites are there for themselves. They want to live like what the white men used to live in Africa. And they will never ever fight for you. So it's time for the worker to realize who is losing here, who is being played here, and unite. So the only way that South Africa can solve the problems it faces is if the Africans come together and we can deal with the issues which South Africa face internally as a united Africa, not independently. And by saying, go build your country first, is going back to 1963 again, where Nkrumah said gradualism is not going to help us. Who said the world is going to wait for us? It can never wait for us. We need to unite now, comrades. Thank you.
Yes, brother Coco, thank you so much from present from where you are. I think it's been wonderful hearing sons and daughters of the soil. I think you can hear the heartbeat, the true heartbeat of Africans as they speak and articulate the real vision that should organize us. Nobody should be a foreigner in Africa. Those of you remember when we had passports, yeah? You remember we were not allowed to travel to South Africa, remember? Your passport would say you can travel anywhere except South Africa and the Bantustans. And then when apartheid ended, we got new passports that said we could travel to South Africa. And that's how some of us Africans after apartheid first went to South Africa. I want, if it's okay, I want Brother General. I believe you should say a few words. Yeah. So General is also based in, I believe, in the Cape, and I think you should say a few words. Here are some pictures from some of our brothers and sisters on the ground who have demonstrated against monopoly capitalism. This was on May Day. So here are pictures they shared with us, which I want to share with you. It's another one. And then we've got another one here. And then we have another one here. Yeah, so we are hearing from all sides. And South Africans should not feel that we are picking on them, yeah? We're not picking on you. We are just flabbergasted that you are attacking us. Yeah, that's all. We say, don't attack us. If we are illegal in your country, until we unite, it is your country. Yeah? Once we unite, it's no more your country, it's for all of us. General, are you able to say a few words so that we can open the floor for discussion? Please proceed. Thank you.
Give thanks, my elder. So, greetings to everyone at large. This night, I also give thanks to everyone who spoke before me. So my name, my native name. Okay, I'm from the Xhosa kingdom, basically. So I had the privilege to, in as much as I'm a Pan-African like everyone else, so I had the privilege to actually also be part of the actual community, you see, because I've always been here in South Africa. I was born here. So I've traveled even the provinces, but my home province is Eastern Cape. So, and being in a community service organizations and being part of various leadership roles in actually assisting the Black community. So I've learned a lot of things where actually you can actually see that if I can say, for lack of a better term, even because of time constraints, I'm going to just summarize it. We can see that the white elites, actually the people who created South Africa in 1902, they didn't plan as if they were planning for a 10-year or 20-year period of them actually getting the resources, the human capital from the Southern Africa. They actually planned 50 to 100 years ahead. And this is a clear evidence in the tactics they use. As you heard most of the elders and everyone else who's a Pan-African, obviously, who say that it's black on black violence, and then the whites are using the Nguni people now to fight the other Africans, which is technically, yeah, that is the case. But what I want people to see is how the white elites have actually had their time up 2012, but now because of technology, they can manipulate the narrative. Because what actually happens, as I said, I'm actually in the ground. So what's actually happening is that sometimes it does happen that the ideology, we do intertwine them. The ideology, which is obviously the ideology that you are Pan-Africans, you're Africans, you are one. Sometimes we may intertwine with the matter, which I can say from my perspective, the subject matter, of which the subject matter in this perspective is different from the ideology. The subject matter is that the borders are still active. The white people still own South Africa. They own about more than 73% of the land. They own the big companies. And now the thing is that now our brothers, the Africans, I'm not going to talk about the ones before 1994. I'm going to talk about the ones after 1994 who came illegally without proper documents. So as you can see, what's happening on the ground is that the white people who own the companies, I won't be rhetorical because they already explained this, how the white people are using this black on black violence. So now what happens ultimately now is that now our people who are working for these white companies are actually actually gaining more. They're making they're getting children and everything. So now the actual South Africans who are at the lowest, which is like basically the low class are having the highest burden from kidnapping, human trafficking, all these things, because the drug cartel is using, even the Xhosas, yes, they are using some of the Xhosa people to sell drugs, but also the Nigerians and other of our brothers, they are using them. It's really happening. We have a lot of cases, but because of, I said, I don't have time, but we have a lot of cases of those things. So as I say, because the white people, they control the media, communications, and the plan, they knew that it's obviously the people are gonna be emotional and explode, and they won't use their logic. They'll just fight because they are hungry and they are fighting for the 7% of land the white people left for us. So they knew that by this time we're gonna explode, and then obviously use that. For them, they use it as a way to gain votes for the elections next year in South Africa and stuff. So that's the thing that they're using it for. They're not really concerned about, okay, we're going to kill each other and what. No, they're just concerned about, okay, now, okay, I'm going to be the hero who's going to take you out of this trouble. After we've done with this, they're going to send in maybe the army or the police or someone who's going to stop, and then that person will be voted for next year, etc. So it's the game they're playing. But so before I close now, thing is that I'm vouching for is that the white elites. Okay, let me talk about the Afrikaners, because we must know that when we talk about white people, they're not the same. As you can see in Europe, France, Belgium, they are different in their mindsets. So the Afrikaners, you have the Afrikaners here, the white people actually believe that they are the white South Africans. So their mindset, basically, they are Calvinists. You see, you can research this anyway, which basically Calvinist is someone who believes that they have the divine right to rule lowly beings, you see. Yes. So the Afrikaners, basically, they want a civil war in South Africa to happen. You see, because they already have everything ready, ammunition, supplies, everything. And to further prove this before I close is that when you can look at what's happening in South Africa on the national, talk about the policies now that actually allowed this black on black violence to happen in South Africa. The issue of Western Cape independence, The white people want to take the Western Cape province, which is the province that has the famous Cape Town city. They want to take that whole province to be out of South Africa, to be a new country in Africa. You understand that problem now? They want to add a new country in Africa. Two, the Afrikaners, they are fighting for the BEE, which is allowed for the black woman, for the black woman who wanted economic independence. The white elites have lobbied, also used fronting, so that economic, I can say percentages that the black woman might need, because the white people, they like more than 60% have the highest positions in South Africa of jobs, of occupation, or profession. I think they're about 60%. And the top 10 companies in the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, top 10 is the white companies. So now the white man doesn't want to give some percentages of that 60 or 65% to the black woman. So now the government is actually now going to take the 10% that the black man has in South Africa and give it to the black woman. You understand? And then the black man is youth. There's no occupation, which is you hear most South Africa always talking about unemployment. Well, that is how the unemployment is happening. So yeah, so that's what I'm saying is the policies that South Africa are using or have been using, such as the one I've mentioned, that the one they want to take the Western Cape independence, and the lobbying of the white men not giving out some percentages of the economic prosperity to the black population. These are the things that now resulted for the mismanagement of our Nguni people, unfortunately, to bring it out on our people. So I'll close there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Raspala, General. Let's go straight into discussion. So if you want to speak, please raise your hand so you can speak. Can I ask that we speak no more than 2 minutes each, so we can hear from everyone? We are happy to extend the session if we need to, given that there is a lot more of us today. Let's start with Sister Portia, please. Thank you. So please, 2 minutes each if you can. Please, thank you, everyone. And Sister Portia may come in later to give us a geopolitical analysis as well. Sister Portia, you can unmute yourself and speak. I believe you are now a co-host. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to give shout out to Revolutionary May Mallory. And I want to remind us of what El Hajj Malik El Shabazz said, which is that, quote, "You can't have capitalism without racism," end quote. I want to thank all of the presenters who talked. I really appreciated the on the ground. And Professor Kwame did ask me to give a geopolitical analysis. I still say don't have to speak, because it's better to hear from the people on the ground, the people who are living this day to day. And I appreciate always the analysis that King Brother Coco gave. My point now in this remaining minutes is what I keep hearing in all of these circles. And I know that CSG has its principles, it has methodologies of how we can be unified and liberated as Black people globally. What, apart from CSG, and not that there are other people who are not having their roadmaps for or with Black people, is I keep hearing us, which is normal, be exhausted with knowing what we need to do, yet not doing it. And I comprehend that there are people every day on the ground who are doing what they can with the resources, be that economic, be that cultural, be that spiritual resources, to try to navigate out of this horrendous racial capitalist these systems. The challenge, though, is how King Brother General just explained it. So how do you, for example, go into someone who is, let's say, allegedly from a part of an area of Africa, but is now in another part of Africa, and they are giving drugs to people there. So they don't have money. and they are now taking narcotics to ease that pain of not having salary work, and then taking part in this because they feel that their territory has been taken from them while the drugs are coming in from somewhere. So that's not Black people doing that. Those are the systems. And I agree that we got to have systems in check, because in indigenous African ways, we did that. You couldn't step out of line without being held accountable. What we are having here, though, still, and then let me wrap up, is that we are just in the problem because these systems are so insidious. And so people are not having food to eat. So I just want to challenge us to please, those of on the call, stay or join the CSG WhatsApp group so that we can, with at least 30 people on this call, I strongly contend we can really start investigating these on Saturday in a private way where we're not going to get hacked or hoodwinked to get out of this mess. Because the problems, I can tell you, as it's already been said on this call, are steadily increasing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Portia. I know you've said it's okay that you don't need to give a geopolitical analysis, but I just feel that towards the end, if you've had enough, you can just kind of pull all that together in kind of brief geopolitical analysis for us. Let's hear from Elder Sam, please. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Members, I just want to make a few remarks, and my remarks are based on the presentation made. In general, Brother Nkrumah presented a very good presentation, but I think we need to latch to what Brother Kaichwayo said. The type of the liberation party, political party that will bring this unity that we are talking about. And then we need to crystallize what Brother Koko is saying, that it should not be from one country individually to the unity of Africa. It should be Africa uniting. And my question for the group would say, do we say the Sahel 3 countries are united as we speak? And if that is the answer is yes, then maybe that is the way to go. But it starts with an individual country. It's either Mali started or it's Burkina Faso that started. So there's no way that we are going to absorb the issue of countries doing their little thing there. The challenge that we are having is in South Africa, the main liberation movements. The African National Congress has gone to split into about 5 parties after 1994. The Pan-African Congress of Azania, which me and Elder Nkrumah belongs to, has now can count 3 or 4 splinter groups that came out of it. And you can count all of them. EFF, we've seen the same thing. I think that is the critical aspect that we need to really scrutinize. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Sam. Let's hear from Sister Grace, please. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Very good presentations and touched on a lot of issues. And I agree with most of them, especially the one that it has always been my opinion that the whole thing is being organized politically and by external forces. We had, when Ramaphosa visited that house, there was a lot of comments about the communities, and then it erupted. Whatever is happening in America, UK, and South Africa seems to be similar, what they're doing to migrants and immigrants. And as a result, also, I feel it's something to do with the elections. They want to organize themselves. They've gotten rid of Malema. So they're now left with these people that they can manipulate easily. And it's been very easy for them to do. We've seen the masses come out on the road, and like one of the presenters said, how are all these masses, where they're getting the funding? And as of yesterday, the leaders were now arguing, exposing each other about this funding and about being bribed and taking money from other people to go on the road. And because of this, I also feel it's an attack on African unity. The borders must fall. Because when like I think it was Brother Coco who said they're in a group where the South Africans are defending categorically. And I've been in groups like that and or on live shows that are like that. They will defend and defend and defend. When asked why they're not attacking the white foreign, the non-black ones, they defend that as well. They don't say anything about them. They'll just say, oh, we dealt with apartheid. We will deal with them later. But now it's these people. So, and I feel that is an attack on the unity. They know that we are all now talking about what unity. I don't think South Africa is happy for Africans to come together and become an even bigger force than just black people ruling in South Africa. So you will see that SADC is lagging behind in terms of unifying. You all got your passports. We haven't got a SADC passports, unless I'm wrong. Somebody can correct me. So there's not much movement in the SADC region because of what's happening in South Africa, and they will delay just as they did with the elections for South Africa. And other thing I've observed is that, like Malema had said, once they are finished with the foreign Africans, they will start on your tribes. You will start fighting amongst each other. And I've seen that so many videos like that. The Zulus and the vendors, the dark complexions being attacked, being asked for passports when they're actually South Africans, and the people are trying to explain that they're South Africans. So it looks like the color thing amongst the South Africans themselves is creeping up now to further the divisions. And some people are talking about the Zulus. I don't know what the Zulus are doing, but they seem to be accusing them of something. Yes, and obviously the mistake that was made by the initial fighters, the South Africans themselves seems to be acknowledging that they messed up. They didn't deal with the things they were supposed to deal with. So which is good news that they've now recognized that something went wrong. But how are they going to correct it? Because the laws that was then are the laws that are here today. So all these things they want to correct can't be corrected if the rules that set up this system are still in operation. And I watched a video whereby they all went into a meeting when they came back from exile, and the white man they were leading the meetings and was asking after the independence or whatever, after apartheid, what's going to happen to the minority, meaning the white people? And there was a black guy called, was it Paula Jordan? He then says, oh, it will stay the same as the Freedom Charter, and that everybody who lives in South Africa remains South African, black or white. So that's where the whole thing was sealed. And then we had all those reconciliation, senseless things that happened. And we end up where we are here. And Mama, I think there's a documentary that has come out of Winnie Mandela, and she's trending a lot on the internet, when she literally at one point says, I told Tata, meaning Mandela, that you have just postponed the revolution. What you're doing and all the negotiations you're doing, you have just postponed the revolution. And years later, people will go back on the road to start again. And we can see that happening now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And one does not fail to notice that the attacks South Africa kind of went up after the UN resolution, when all Africa was united against this resolution. Then now they want to show that Africa is not united, etc., etc. So we know that as well. Brother Ifo, please come in. Can I urge us all to try and stick to 2 minutes so we can hear from more people? And as there are guests amongst us who have come especially for this session, that will give them also the chance to speak So we probably will extend this session for about another half an hour, if that's okay with everyone. Brother Ifo, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Yes, the coincidences are coincidentally, as they say. I'm saying they say, but I just made that up. We see the same pattern repeat itself over and over again. I live in the occupied territory that they call Canada. And we see that when the indigenous people whose land they stole from were organizing, they sent in police, and they also sent in different instigators to try to cause disharmony amongst the people. There's a community just a few hours away from me here where the Canadian police helped a drug dealer to get elected as chief in order to prevent the community from organizing. We also have the history of the British providing opium to China. So if you look at what's going on in South Africa, it's my understanding that majority of all the drugs and all the criminal activity that is happening is not happening by foreigners. But we notice that when I'm talking about the people that are referring to as foreigners, which are Black Africans, which I don't think are foreigners, but they're referring to them as foreigners. But some people have stolen over 70% of the land. They have no deeds because they stole the land. But somehow that is sidetracked, controlling over 80% of the industry, the economy. That is not being talked about. But mysteriously, it is Africans, fellow Africans, that they're organizing again. I see, people talk about foreign people smuggling drugs into the country. Let me tell you, if you're trying to smuggle drugs into any country, the easiest people to do that are they call them Muzungus in some parts. White people are the easiest to smuggle drugs into anywhere because they are the least policed. Black people all over the world are over-policed at international borders. If you look at I've been doing some research on this. There have been massive cases of local Black police officers who were caught smuggling drugs, South Africans. We've seen the same thing of drug smuggling. We've seen drug smuggling from the white people. We've seen drug smuggling from Asians. But we are noticing this selective outrage where they don't seem to be attacking, they seem to only be attacking Africans. And when people say, well, but they are drug dealers. For me, if you go and you attack someone, a woman that is in the hospital trying to give birth, and you say the reason why you're there is because of drug dealing, this is nonsense. This is pure Afrophobia, pure self-hatred, because we are not foreigners. We are all family. So if someone has convinced you that it is okay to go and attack your own family, you have a problem. We collectively have a problem. We see the same thing I'm going to close on this. We see the same thing in the land they stole and decided to call Nigeria. When you go to the northern part of Nigeria, all the politicians that are colluding with the colonialists to steal the resources, they will say, well, it is the Christians that are causing this and are stealing it because they're in the north. And then if you go to the south, the politicians in the southern part of Nigeria will tell their fellow people that the reason why you have nothing is because all the northerners are stealing the resources. But it's the same divide and conquer colonial tactic that we see happening domestically within the colonial borders of Nigeria among ethnic lines. And then we see the same nonsense happening in South Africa. We see the same nonsense in the US with the so-called FBI and ADOS. And we see the same thing all over the place. So I think it's time for us to recognize the colonial system of divide and conquer and stop falling for it. They're not even trying a new game. That's the part that amazes me, is that people don't study history. Because if you studied the history, you would understand and you would recognize the game and we would not fall for it. So we, as the older generation, have failed to teach our children properly because our children don't know these things. That's why they're falling for it. I'll yield the mic on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Ifo. Joining all the way from Canada. We appreciate you. Let's go to the continent. Brother Pigeon, please. Thank you. And Brother Seshaba has raised an issue in the chat, which I think we should pick up. Yeah. Yes, Brother Pigeon, please proceed, and then after you, we'll go to Kumbo. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I will wish that as members, I give the visitors opportunity to speak. But now that you've called me, because we have visitors in the room, especially from South Africa, let me just be very
it's okay, brother. We've extended. We would extend the time so that we can hear from the guests as well. Yeah.
Now, the element of foreigners is not only in South Africa. These are legal constitutional issues we have in various countries, so-called 54 countries. And until we deal with constitutionality and our constitutions in the continent, even if we don't have one continental government, if we can harmonize our constitution to recognize any African, not as a foreigner or a legal migrant, then we will not solve these issues, because they'll come with issues in law say that they are here illegal. They are either here legal. You see, that element should not exist. And if we can deal with that in our constitutionals, because in Kenya, we have brothers from now Burundi, Rwanda, Uganda, who are doing great work, and Tanzania and Kenya. So soon, then Kenya will be following South Africa. But you see, brothers and sisters in the continent should not be termed, as I've said, foreigners or not, based on some few so-called constitutions that are actually colonial. You see? And we need to then review then who do we call as South Africans or whatever. But the bigger solution to this is actually a united continental government. If we can have a united continental government, then every citizen will be a citizen of that government. But beyond this again, we must recognize that when a country develops a bit, whether it's developed by the whites or so, most of the countries around will tend to move towards that direction for job and even for better pay. We have our brothers and sisters who have even moved from the continent to go somewhere else just to look for either better, whatever it can be. But that does not mean that the argument I hear from South Africa that let everybody go back to their home and fix their country. No. The problem of South Africa did not start by blacks who are coming to South Africa. And they know that. And the problem of South Africa will not be solved by chasing away so-called blacks from South Africa. That will not be the solution. You see? So it is very important that we recognize that brothers and sisters will always move to seek for some better job. And when a country develops, as I'm saying, in Kenya today, there are some jobs that Kenyans don't want to do today. They don't want to sell tea. They don't want to be whatever hawkers in the government because they know that it pays them less amount to survive. And other people want to do that. So what's the problem? So the bottom line of my issue is we have constitutional issues. As much as you have economic reasons, but the constitution, and then we say that one is a legal migrant, one is a foreign, and one is whatever, is a thing that we must deal with. So that then we cannot assume that when you call a person from Zimbabwe a foreigner, then you cannot call a white man a foreigner. What are you basically saying? So that is constitutional issues. As much as we have economic issues, every country have economic issues, and every country have a political issue. But we cannot shy away from so-called constitutional problems that are being created by these neocolonial constitutions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Pigeon. I am saying that I cannot be a foreigner in Africa, in any African country. I'm sorry. I am an African. I remember Thabo Mbeki making that famous presentation to the South African Parliament titled, I am an African. we can't be foreigners in Africa. Sorry. Let's hear from Brother, just get the name right, Tokumbo Oki. Thank you. Tokumbo, are you ready? Brother Pidgin, you might need to unmute Brother. I hope I got it right. And it's not. I hope he's not a she enough. I have missed.
No, Brother Kwame, I have enabled unmuting for all members now that you're moving to the other session. So any member will unmute, but we need to observe some order. We don't have discussion.
Okay, Tokumbo doesn't seem to be ready. So let's go to Zama Makubu. Let's hear from you, please. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I stand as an African, and I am glad to say I was the starter of revolution in my country, and that is South Africa. I'm a Sowetan that raised up an arm and said enough is enough.
Wonderful.
And I want to say, yes, you have said everything about our problem. We have a very, very big problem. And our leaders are part of it. Everybody has seen that and we know it. I want to say we embrace the United States of Africa. As we embrace the United States of Africa, you've spoken about every movement. This United States of Africa, as a point of departure, should have a constitution. That constitution will be the constitution that gets rid of this South African constitution that we don't want. That is the first step. And if we as the United States of Africa can have that constitution, every hell will break loose, I'm telling you, because the very liberation movement has betrayed us. Okay? This year, we are celebrating 50 years as the Makubu family. We don't know where our brother is, and there is nobody who can help us. Okay? Now that case is closed. I want to say, just to make an example, you know, when a country is drowning, like South Africa is drowning in its own divisions. Yeah, the divisions were created by the then government. They've created petitions in our country. You are a Zulu, you are a Sotho, you are whatever. We need to start teaching our own people. Today I was at Sabbath. Yeah, we were just singing. Yeah. And people started saying, oh, I'm from Ghana. I'm Ghanaian. Oh, you're not pronouncing it well. I stood up and I said, we are all Africans here. We need to start teaching from house to house. The divisions that were implanted, that were planted by the colonial system are still within us. We are trapped in it, in language, in border, and in everything. So we need to start at the grassroots. People should not talk division. You are no Sotho. My brother Koko has put it quite well. I actually, being a South African, I got married to Lesotho. And then, what is this? What is this? We need to create a language that takes us out of dividing ourselves. Do you understand? Yes, South Africans came out one time when I was addressing a community of South Africans to say there are no borders. They then said, how do we know that if I get into Malawi, I will not be discriminated? Could you, Sister Zama, go and change all these from all the other countries? Yes, it is true. Let's have a constitution. Let South Africans get out of that rotten cocoon. Let them open up their horizons and know what is preached outside. You know, you stay in one place, you rot. You don't know what is preached outside. The very capitalism, the very imperialism has made us hate other places of the world, places like Russia, places like China, and all other places. Why? Because you are used to the same rubbish that you eat at home. It's high time that every South African, so to speak, because they are hard nuts to crack. I'm sorry, I'm not going to say anything about them. They are looking at everything in a myopic way. You know, a person is looking at his own surroundings, his rubbish education that was actually fed by the imperialists. So people, we had BAC, we have everything. Another thing, what I'm noticing with this liberation movement that has died a slow death, they are still celebrating things like the commemoration of the June 16 as their own. They are not inviting other parties into it. For God's sake, those students, especially my brother Mbuyisa Makubu, was none of them. But they are making it their thing. We should start correcting these things from there. I'm sorry, I'm so taken up. I would like to close by saying, if a person is drowning in their own rubbish, in their own ocean that they have created, that is South Africa, we need people from outside to come and help us, because if you are drowning, you can't help yourself. So help us. We come to say, USA, United States of Africa, create a constitution that will fight against this Constitution of South Africa. That's the end of what I want to say.
Yes, excellent. Let's have a short break, music, and then we'll continue. Thanks.
Freedom is our goal. 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 Africa is our home. Freedom is our goal. Freedom is our goal. Freedom is our goal. Will you leave us alone? Freedom is our goal. Freedom is our home. Freedom is our goal. A fire is a window, burning on my people. Fire in Angola, burning on my people. A riot in Mozambique, affecting all my people. Fighting in Namibia, crushing all my people. A shooting in Soweto, killing all my people. A rebel in Zimbabwe, victimizing all my people. I look at them a shooting, my people are dying. I look at them a burning, my people are crying. I look at them a robbing, my people are sighing. Tell me where you gonna go when the vaccine come. Tell me where you gonna hide when the Lord come down. Or what you gonna do when you find out the truth? The color of God, neither black nor white. How we did nothing, nothing that we owe you. How we need something.
Yes, that is Sonny Okosa. Yes, he's Nigerian. South Africans, he is Nigerian. Yes, he is Nigerian. That's a song he sang for us to support South Africa's liberation. When Soweto bent, we rose up in arms. It was this song. When this song is being sung, you can see young people. This is Ghana, by the way. You know, young people. We were on the streets. So we supported your liberation. Stop shooting us. Stop attacking us. Okay, please. So there are still more hands up. We will hear from everyone. So let's proceed. But before that, let me remind us all that Sister Zama has made a good point, and Brother Welcome, CWHK, is here. He is leading our United Nations of Africa initiative, and we are saying that we need to call a constitutional conference for the entire African continent. And that conference should be attended by the indigenous and organic nations of Africa. That does not include the foreigners on the continent. We don't care whether they think that they are Calvinists and have God-given rights to rule anyone. We don't accept that. We don't accept that nonsense. Yeah. So thank you, Sister Zama, for mentioning it. We are in the process. So please, if you are interested, text Brother CWHK directly, and he'll know what to do. Thank you very much. Let's proceed. Let's hear from Tokumbo again. Unfortunately, he or she couldn't speak earlier. Tokumbo.
Yes, comrade. Good evening.
The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, first and foremost, I'd like to. I visited South Africa thrice. My brothers-in-law, two of them are married to South African women. I want to be very brief about this. I think the whole question of drugs is a red herring because South African police statistics, basically say that only 2% of the so-called people that they term foreigners are involved in drug-related crime. I mean, the drugs have always been there because you only have to cast your mind back to 1976 when you had the school children's uprising against Bantu education. I mean, one of the first things they did was to close down the she-beans and close down the drug dens, that their parents used to visit to blot out the horrors, of apartheid. I mean, those that are old enough to know will know that the Toy boys used to peddle dagga and mandrax, and the apartheid regime turned a blind eye. I mean, basically, because if you were continuously stoned, then you were in no position to oppose the apartheid regime, which was why the school children acted the way they did. But I think apart from that, I think there's a bigger problem. And I think the comrade from the Pan-African Congress, I believe his name is Brother Nkrumah, hit the nail on the head. When he basically said, it is what the ANC signed up to in 1994, that is the roots, of the problem that a lot of young South Africans are facing today. Because what did they sign up to? I mean, basically, they, throughout all their discussions, they left the productive sector of the economy in the hands of white monopoly capital. Almost 84% of the land was left in the hands, of, white farmers. They oversaw, the implementation, of new. It meant that the country was opened up to international, competition. So that was when a lot of industries collapsed. Also, there's capital flight. Because a lot of South African multinationals were allowed to transfer capital out of the country. Many of their taxation laws, you are taxed on the basis of where your quarters is. So if your headquarters, is not based, in South Africa, like a lot of
Tokumbo, you are breaking, just so you know. Your line is breaking, Tokumbo.
Sorry. Yeah, just like a lot of companies that are listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, like SAB Miller, and so have all transferred, their headquarters, out, of South Africa. I think the biggest problem from what I see, because when I visited South Africa, to me, it was like there were two separate countries, in one geographical boundary.
Tukumbo?
Any form of indigenous development for Black people. South Africa was designed to support the privileges of 5 million white people at the expense, of Black people. So what you are seeing today, as the comrade from the PA said, is the crisis, of the apartheid state. Nothing has changed. A handful of people have made money, like Cyril Ramaphosa, who one of his assistants disappeared with a large amount of cash that he was keeping at home. And you begin to wonder, where did he get the money from? Or Jacob Zuma, who has built a palatial estate, at Nkandla, and these are the people that have benefited. I sincerely believe, that these so-called anti-immigration riots are being sponsored from above to divert people's attentions away from the real enemy, which is the ANC government that supports white monopoly capital, to divert people's attention, away from the crisis that ordinary people are facing. But I think the main problem is that the South African left, has collapsed, where you have leftist parties that have split, into various small formations. So unfortunately, the left is unable to tap that anger and channel it towards the real enemy. So you find you have a lot of opportunists using this opportunity to attack people, foreigners. I'll stop from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, our brother, for touching on some really sensitive and interesting issues. I think what you said rhymes with what Raspala said, that they are heading for civil war so they can declare an independent state for white people in South Africa, and that the whole point of these attacks is to portray Black South Africans as incapable of managing their own affairs, etc., etc. So thank you for drawing our attention to that. I would also remind you again, we are in the process of preparing, after some fundraising, to call a constitutional conference where all the nationalities, the indigenous and organic nations of Africa will be represented, so we can come up with a new constitution and abolish these borders once and for all. So that is what we want to do. We are civil society. Let's hear from a sister, and then we'll go to a brother Sizwe after that. Sister Tapua.
Thank you very much. Thank you for everyone who has contributed so far. Really interesting perspective, and I'm glad we're coming from different directions. I'd like to, as a way of responding to some of the issues that were brought up, attend to a few points. I've started to think that parties and political parties are not a way of addressing the concrete problems that we face as Africans, because our philosophical perspective of communalism demands that my brother be my brother and be on my side. And I think a lot of the political formations that were done pre-independence in quotation marks were based on race, because we were facing racial capitalistic systems. So it's not surprising that after independence, we have to split. And that splitting should be expected And like what the latest brother to speak said, the left is struggling to harness the anger and the dissatisfaction that is amongst the people. And we see this in what's happening in South Africa today. Another point I'd like to point out, to stress is, I've listened to South Africans, even the ones who were shouting in the streets, even the Dudula guys who are saying, go back to your own countries. And I'm Zimbabwean. My question was to myself, why do my people not want to come back to their country? Why are they going to South Africa? And I acknowledge the borders. I'm not for the Berlin borders. I'm just listening to them using the boundaries that are created that way there. And what I see is a failure of the independent countries that preceded South Africa to look attractive, so that even the indigenous peoples in South Africa would have a model and say, we want to be like Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe has been uplifted as a country that has taken back the land. But what the people of South Africa experience from Zimbabweans are the dispossessed Zimbabweans who have not been favored by the discriminating regime that currently rules. So if you're saying to an ordinary South African, we want to be like Zimbabwe and own the land, the Zimbabwean that they see is not anyone they'd like to envy. So what we have is the peoples who are African who are going to South Africa to seek greener pastures are people who are a reflection of what South Africans don't want to be. And therefore, it is the responsibility of the current independent governments to be exemplary in the way they present themselves, so that our brothers and sisters, being the last bonds in this struggle, would say, yes, we want to be like big brother Nigeria. Yes, we want to be like big brother Kenya, and so on, so that they aspire. But they don't see it, they don't feel it, and I don't blame them. I'm actually not saying condoning what they're doing, but I'm beginning to see why. Because if Traore and the Alliance for the AI, is it AS, right? If that group becomes an example, then we've got something to use to get people to unite under the flagship of Africa. But right now, South Africans are protecting their part of the cake because they are made to think that they have it all. And we know what the reality is. Something else that I'd like to point out is the expression hurt people hurt people. What the South African Black people are doing has been learned from what the oppressors did to them. The cake is small and there's not enough to go around. And they've experienced how discrimination ensures that you get the cake. So when they're given the opportunity to share in the cake and someone else jumps in, particularly Zimbabweans, I know that at independence, Zimbabweans went to South Africa in large droves. And when the country was saying they needed quotas to fill in different companies, they needed the right color people, and so on, a lot of the Zimbabweans jumped on that bandwagon. And because of the gap of the apartheid type education, they missed out on that. And therefore, they're justified in thinking years later that they should be in those positions that they were meant to be. I've lived in the United Kingdom and I've had an occasion, because when I went there, there was a shortage of labor in teaching in particular. But when you've worked in a country for so long, they can't then suddenly say, oh, we now have enough of this, can you go back? Because by that time, you've naturalized. And this is the situation that a lot of South Africans are faced with. They want to take part in their economies, but other people who had the qualifications have come in, which is why it makes sense that we should unite under one Africa so that even South Africans are able to leave their country and go elsewhere if it looks attractive. I'm responding now to the Mandela. There's always this saying that Mandela sold out. We cannot place the burden of the liberation of a whole nation or of Africa on one person. We can't say Nkrumah failed us. There is no way we can do that. Each one of us has to play our part. We shouldn't even compare Mandela to Winnie, who was better, who had more credit. My position is, whilst we want to face the facts, yes, there are problems. But what mileage do we get for where we are now, today? Because each person will take part in the struggle from their perspective, from what they can do within their lifetime. They pass on the baton to the next one. It's the responsibility of those who came after him or who knew he was selling out to act accordingly. If you think he was selling out and he sold out, what are you doing about the position today? What should we do about the position today? Instead of just harking back and saying, this is what they did wrong. Yes, they did wrong, but what are we doing today? I'll stop there for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sister Tapua, for your very eloquent and masterful enunciation of the matters. And so let's now hear from our elder, Sizwe, African Heritage. We've got about 13 minutes left. So we're coming towards the end of the session. It's an extended session today because of the sensitivity of the topic. And we had a lot of visitors in our midst, so we wanted to hear from them as well. Brother Elder, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I thank you very much. And,
you're welcome.
Hello, everyone. I spent my formative years in the western part of our motherland and have lived in the West since the 1960s. And growing up in the motherland, I first heard about South Africa, a place called South Africa, which eventually I got to learn is Azania. In terms of there being two types of people there. There were the Afrikaans, spelled with two Ks, and the blacks. I kept hearing the pronunciation, the blacks and the Afrikaans, the blacks and the Afrikaans. And it took me a while to understand that really the Afrikaans are Europeans. And the so-called blacks are Africans. Now I make this point, or I state this to make this point. We definitely need a revolution. When I say we, I mean in South Africa, throughout the continent of Africa, and even in our diaspora. And in a context in which, physical context, in which there are approximately 1,144 military bases, foreign military bases all over the globe, of which not one belongs to a single African country. I'm talking foreign bases outside of their territorial areas. We have a sane person will come to the conclusion that the enslavement of humankind in large numbers, particularly us, hasn't changed. It's just evolved. And it's evolved to a more nefarious form. We should never lose sight of that. Now, we believe, when I say we, I belong to a small organization called the African Heritage Universe. We believe that yes, we need a revolution. That revolution has to be a cultural one. After so many centuries of not only enslavement but colonialism, we as Africans don't really know our true selves, because we are what we are, complements to a significant extent of the conditioning that we received under those regimes, slavery, colonialism, neocolonialism, etc. So while I take no issue with the points that many of the speakers made earlier, and in fact, I am impressed that we're not fools. You all see the issue. You all see the issue. But when it comes to responding to it, okay, it cannot be a knee jerk. It has to be compliments of the type of people that we are, because of our ancestral heritage. I think it was Sister Tapua that mentioned that we're different people. Yes, we are, in spite of all that has happened to us. I could go on, but I'm conscious of time. So I would say it's my first visit to this forum. Thanks for whoever organizes it, but we have to focus on action and inspired action. We have to use. Okay. Thank you again.
No, thank you too. So we'll be hearing next from our lead person who is leading us when it comes to action on the unification front. So if you are interested in action, please contact him. He's said WHK. He's coming to the floor in a moment. And the cultural revolution that you've mentioned, I think Nkrumah did mention that to us. It is in this highlighted paragraph. The cultural revolution we need is the restoration of the African personality, which is defined by the cluster of humanist principles which underlie the traditional African society. So that is a cultural revolution we need. And as Sir WHK is going to be speaking in a moment, and the revolution we are asking for is the unification of Africa. That is a real revolution.
Yeah.
Once you unify the continent and have one government, some of the nonsense will stop. Others will arise, but some of the ones.
Well, on that point, our position is Africa, God made one Africa.
Thank you.
It is the Europeans made 54.
One nation, one people, one destiny.
Okay, so to expend energy in trying to unite something that's singular is a fool's errand.
I understand. Yes, thank you so much. So please, if you're interested, join us. We meet every Saturday, by the way, on various topics. Thank you. Sir WHK, the floor is yours.
Greetings, Brother Chairman.
Greetings, brother.
Revolutionary Pan-African greetings to all the participants. I just have two comments to make. They say tree tops catches the most wind. Allow us to criticize the head of Mandela for the failure that has ensued. And again, they say the love for your child, especially at birth, you will take with to the grave. We have loved our Nelson so much at his birth, at the Rivonian trial, and at his incarceration. And our love for him has blinded us to follow him closely and to anticipate and not to anticipate what could have happened during his incarceration. We thought he was going to maintain the momentum of the revolution, underplaying the fact that he has now landed in the hands that did not want the revolution to go full stream. When he was released from prison, we didn't have enough time to assess him and to ascertain that he is the same person that they had sent to prison. They knew they didn't have to give us time to make the assessment, otherwise we wouldn't agree to his becoming the head of state. It slipped our consciousness and he became the head of state. And in the prison, he has been conditioned to sell out the revolution. We shouldn't equate him to the presidents that followed, that this one did not do also this, therefore that will nullify the fact that he did not sell out. It means we do not want to face reality as it is. And once we cannot face reality, we cannot change. And if we cannot change, our people will remain in abject poverty as they are. To draw another parallel with Namibia, at independence, the Constituent Assembly means the people who have written the first constitution for Namibia did not acknowledge that a nation, community in Namibia, were decimated by 90% by way of a genocide. They did not acknowledge in the constitution that 90% of ancestral land has been taken by the colonialists and as such should be restituted. Namibian constitution does not make mention for once to to ancestral land, and nor does it make mention to genocide for once in its entirety. So these are the problems that has led to the situations that are similar, both in Namibia and in South Africa. Namibian land to the tune of over 80% belongs to the white monopoly capitalists, just like it is over 70% in South Africa. And that condition and that situation has persisted for over 35 years now, and nothing has been done. Lesson learned, we have to go back to the drawing board and we have to face the situation as they are. And this is time for Africa to take the lead, to give pressure outside the OAU or the AU, if you like. Continental constitution that will give pressure to this issue is very eminent and long overdue. Our own pressure as Pan-Africanists, individually, if you like, and concerted in our individual group, is calling for unity. And the time is now. And with this platform of the unification of Africa, we have to take the revolution to the next level. And that is the level of action
and action and action. Our heads of states, of the colonial states, must start feeling the pressure. And if we cannot give the pressure, we should abandon the revolution. And there's no time to abandon the revolution because we have started it. We must take it to its completion. And this is the step in the right direction. I rest my case there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brothers and sisters, we've had a long session, almost 2.5 hours. And Brother welcomes interjection, intervention, presentation, brings us to the end of the session for today. I will pass on now to Brother Pigeon to share the announcements, and we'll bring the meeting to a formal close. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Kwame. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Comrades, I want to thank everyone who attended this session today. Some of us did not get time to speak, but at least we spend our resources in terms of our data and our time to listen. To those who spoke, we thank you for sharing your thinking. Sometimes this is not the first time this attack is happening. It's our wish and our hope not only to analyze the situation, but to find a way on how can we stop this. If there's a way we can contribute to stopping this, any of us will be more proud to do that. By even organizing this session is a clear indication that you're willing to stop this, not only to analyze it as news or activities in the continent, but it's a clear commitment from our side that we are interested to actually stop this that's going on in South Africa. Now, these sessions are always out of our Saturday unification sessions. And we are looking towards having a United Nations of Africa. Because we believe that the problems in the parts of Africa are collective. It's not South Africa having the problem. Many countries of Africa are having the same problem. But a unified government then can take away the elements of us seeing each other as enemies, foreigners, and all these things. So we started a project, the United Nations of Africa, on the basis of uniting Africans on nationalities, not on neocolonial states. Because we are either Bantus or Shonals or Ngoni. Those don't exist before white man came in. And so I wish that we can unite on that basis, not on the basis of you are a South African, you are a Kenyan and Zimbabwean. So we are looking forward to fully embark on that and work on that framework so that if unity is not what is given to us, it's what we fight for. And it seems that we must fight for our unity as a people. Now, our recordings for some of these sessions, and especially all the sessions, are always available on our YouTube channel. We will consider whether we need to share this recording on our YouTube channel. Unless anybody has an objection, if you feel that it's unsafe for you or the thoughts you've shared to be aired in public, please get in touch with us with the link I've shared so that we can consider that and see what we can do about it. But ours is for education and information purposes. We have a main session on Thursdays, which is our main philosophical class, sometimes 6 p.m. GMT. And we invite you to join us where and then we analyze the philosophy for decolonization of Africa. And that is consensus. We've been meeting for the last 4 years without offending every Thursday. The unification session we are having today has been going on for the last 2 to 3 years, every Saturday without missing. So please join any of those sessions if you wish. And please also get in touch with our YouTube channel, which is Conference Study Group, where we have over 400 of our previous class recordings and meetings available on the YouTube channel. We also have a Telegram library where we have shared books written by Africans or for Africans or pro-Africa. Over 8,000 soft copy books are available on our Telegram channel so that we can also engage books that we need to actually have in the mental liberation. Having said that, I don't have much to say, but Brother Kwame, please, you'll be able to share with us the topic for the next Saturday so that those who
yes
can come in.
Should I put that screen? Here we go.
Yeah, we do have sessions on every Saturday where we do invite research and people to do presentation. So for the next Saturday, we're looking for economic warfare against Africa. which is basically analyzing things to do with sanctions, debt, and currency control. If you're an economist or an expert or interested to present on this, please come on board and help us have a presentation, do a research, and then present to us. Our intention is always on a unification front. So how do you move to a unified framework? So that's what we're looking for in next Saturday. Having said that, Brother Kwame, I think that's enough for me for my side, and just to say goodbye to you all.
Yeah, thank you. Brother Nkrumah, are you there? Brother Nkrumah? I thought he should.
I can get Brother Nkrumah, because actually Brother Nkrumah is the current Secretary General of the Pan-African or the PSC Azania. He's the current Secretary General, is the member of our class, so we can easily get in touch with him.
Yes. So I wanted him to close the meeting, but it's not. It's okay. So thank you all.
Elder Sam can do that. Elder Sam can do that. Elder Sam.
Elder Sam. Is Sam still here? Elder Sam, please close the meeting. Thank you. Brother Sam is our elder, also based in Azania. Thank you. Brother Sam, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairperson, and everybody that participated on this important topic. I think without much ado, we think we need to draw conclusions. We need to take these actions into fruition. We cannot procrastinate any longer. The people are dying. The revolution must go on. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Brother Sam. Brothers and sisters, you heard it, the meeting is now formally closed. Feel free to stay and listen to the rest of the music.
Will you leave us alone?